Dan DeGros just did. Now, I contacted Senator DeGros, his office, on several occasions, and I sent in numerous faxes and explained to them, look, you have the lead. When you have the lead, that's a privilege, that's a right to squelch anything bad about your own people. The best thing to do, if you got a person who's giving you problems, is you send them on hiatus for 6 months or whatever. You see, that's what they did to Senator Joe Young. He's a black senator from Detroit. Well, his big problem was they had to let him go for 6 months because of drug abuse. And then after he did his 6 months for drug abuse, then he got some drunk driving charges put against him. And he also got his state-paid secretary pregnant. And now we got to pay for that forever. Those are reasons to expel someone. But what did they do? They sent him away just for 6 months. There's another senator who the police had to pull him off his wife. He had a gun to her head. In that case, somehow or another, they manipulated that and the judge dismissed it. You got Matt Dunaskis. He was at a drug treatment center on the day of the vote against Senator Jay. They went and picked him up and brought him to testify against Senator Jay. And then you got Keith Starworth in the House of Representatives. He got about 5 high felony charges, including money laundering, having something to do with that strip club he has, and being involved with a drug gang that uses children and young people to sell drugs. Yet Rick Johnson, he is the House leader, Speaker of the House. He says, well, look, we do not call any hearings until all court proceedings are exhausted. So I said, well, excuse me? Don't you know Senator Dave Jay? They says, well, that may be the way they do things in the Senate, but this is the House of Representatives. We do not bring charges until everything has been resolved by the court, and then we act accordingly. They did not allow Senator Dave Jay the same privilege. And so I'm wondering, you know, if I were him, I would be suing everybody running. I'd be suing everybody walking. I know the Senate has a power and a right to do some things, but I think that it was wrong. It was wrong for Dan DeGros to do that to his own party members, even if they don't get along with him. See, people have to understand, and I've told people this over and over again, Dave Jay is not a go-along to get-along senator. You may not raise taxes on the public. You may not take a pay raise without letting the public know that you're doing this. You may not institute a gas tax without him screaming about it. You may not put the Michigan internet tax on without them knowing. So what they did, they pulled that internet tax thing while he was sitting in the hearing. So they slid that right through right quick. Every year for the past 12 years, Senator Dave Jay got the Taxpayers United Award. Now, when he was in the House of Representatives, it was the Democrats who had the lead. And so, of course, the Republicans was thrilled that he was exposing them. Then when he got to the Senate, the Republicans had the lead, and they wanted him to squelch his pork barrel reports. So another reason that Senator Dave Jay is gone is because his pork barrel report shows millions of dollars in Senate waste by the Senate Republicans. And that's why he's gone. Now, Daryl is going to run a clip, and then I want you to tell me in this clip where you see somebody kicking, stomping, hitting anyone by a beer cooler. That's all I want you to let me know. It'll be up there in a minute. We're going to discuss, you know, whether or not Dan DeGros had the right. Let's watch it.
And it's in the upper left that I'm to watch.
Now there's Dave J. just coming in. You didn't see anybody fighting before he got in. That's him in the red and black hunting jacket. I don't see him beating nobody. Do you see him beating anybody?
No, I don't.
Now remember now, a young man sat down and testified under oath that he was beating a woman by the beer cooler and kicking her and stomping her. Said he'd never seen anything like it before in his life. And you got a picture of the entire show there on the screen. Now he's just going back in there now trying to get his girlfriend out of the men's room. See, she wouldn't come out. There goes the manager. Somebody's complaining again. She's in the men's room. There's the manager coming back. He couldn't get her out either. There goes Dave again. He still ain't beating nobody by no beer cooler. He should have went home. He should have left her. That's what he should have did. But I think he feared for her safety had he left her. Now, Dan DeGrow had this tape for months. He knew that Dave hadn't hit anyone. All this stomping by the beer cooler and stuff, none of that happened. I think they're finally fixing to get her out. And that was not an easy job. Here she comes now. All right. That's it. Now, did you see anyone beating and stomping somebody by the beer cooler?
No, I did not.
Well, this is what a young man came into the Senate here. He said he'd never seen anything like it before in his life. And how we got that tape by accident. Roland had to go, he went to Bay City after this young man testified, and he just wanted to interrogate him one more time because he was not allowed to cross-examine. So his mother, who runs the store, she said, well, if you're going to talk to my son, then I'm going to have you take a tape back to Dan DeGrow so he can know what you said. So then he says, well, if you do that, then you have to give me a tape as well, because that's the way it goes in the legal world. Both sides have to have a copy. So she accidentally gave him. That was done by accident, I say by God's will, because she thought she was giving him two tapes of the conversation he had that Saturday, and what she gave him was one tape of that conversation and the actual tape of what really happened November the 20th, when they said that there was not even any video equipment installed in the store. You can read that in the paper.
That's amazing.
Yep, and this is what they expelled that man on. And all the other charges that they had against Senator Jay, they were all proved to be not true. The only thing that really could stick was the drinking part, but two of them was 8 years ago, so according to the congressional laws, you can't use that one. And the other one, well, he had already served his 45 days. On the issue of Florida, we found out what that was all about. It was, she called the police herself because she couldn't get her keys or whatever, and they wouldn't come out for her. So she was really mad, and she told me herself, she was the one who called up north to his enemies, and then they called Florida. Otherwise, you never would have heard. Of course, if she calls his enemies in the Democratic Party, of course he's going to jail. Of course he is, and that's how you saw that. But the whole thing about that, it was all dismissed.
Well, when you react to innuendos, secondhand information, things that have nothing to do with a judicial hearing or being found guilty after a trial, then that's the position you get in. But you're right. David J. was a fiscal conservative. He didn't like to spend money, and he didn't go along with any increases in spending. And for a group of people that have been spending money for quite some time, because we've had a good economy in this state for many years now, that was out of step with a lot of people, and I think that's why they picked him out to make an example of him. But what they did to David J. Is very sad, and but we're going to move on. I think the powers that be that were behind all this, I think they think that the Republicans have the political capital to spend on things like this, and so they've made a judgment decision. A year from now, when we go through that election cycle for part of the Senate and the House of Representatives, or the representatives there in Lansing, I think that there are going to be so many dynamics going on the national scene that it may push local politics aside. So it's hard to project a year from now. We don't know what is going to go on 12 days from now.
Tomorrow.
But, or 12 hours, 12 minutes. But David J. was a good man, an honorable man. He is an honorable man. He didn't win his primary, but it probably won't be the last we hear from him. And things go on.
Well, you know, the primary was all telling. The primary was all telling. I'm going to be honest with you, and the reason I say that is less than, just barely 1/3 of the Republicans even, I don't think it was even 1/3 of Republicans came out, because Dave had 5,000 some votes. Alan Sanborn had 8,000 and some, and the girl, what's her name, Sue Rocca, she had about 7,000 some, and then you had about 4,000 or 5,000 split amongst 20 more people. That's not even 1/3 of the Republican voters. And then here's what you got to understand what happened there. Alan Sanborn and Sue Rocca, they got more votes than Dave J. because it was Democrats who voted for them. That was not the Republicans. Everybody who voted for Dave J. was a Republican or a Libertarian. Everybody who voted for him. Sanborn, so if everybody who voted for Dave J. was a Republican, and Sanborn and Rocca had, between the two of them, 13,000 votes, and less than should look like even 1/10 of the Republicans even came out, then they must have had just about all Democratic votes. And see, it's about almost 70,000 voters in that region. And I think one of the reasons that they didn't come out was because I think they really want Dave to stay home for a while and to regroup and get his, get a new personality. And some of them were scared that he was going to get actually physically hurt, because these Republicans right now, these are some ruthless Republicans, and a lot of people were talking about that they were afraid that he might get hurt. And one of the things too was the fact that you got 32 senators who are not coming back. Now, with that amount of senators who are not coming back, they did not need Dave J. in there with his strong voice, because when they have to come back as lobbyists, they need to be able to steamroll. With Dave J. in there, he would be teaching the new senators conservative fiscal ways, and they didn't want that, so they either wanted his name smeared so badly so that if he did come back, wouldn't nobody listen or just have him gone, period. And they did try to make him resign and get his pay. But Dave J., oh no, he is not going to take taxpayers' money without actually doing something for it. He used to return money at the end of the season, but it backfired on Dan DeGrow. This all backfired, and I believe it's going to backfire some more when it comes around to these next elections. You got the Libertarian Party coming on really strong. A lot of people are very, very upset with the Republicans in that area. When I looked at the small turnout for a primary in that area, they usually, even for primaries, they got a good 30-40%. It was just barely 10% that came out, just barely. And so that is saying something very damning for the Republican Party. But one good thing about it is Dick Posthumous. He had sense enough to recognize the damage that DeGrow has done to his party, and as you know, he has stepped away. He has said that he does not want to be on any ticket with any Dan DeGrow, and you cannot blame Dick Posthumous for not wanting to be on a ticket with such a man. And here's what I'm concerned about: if he'll do something like that to his own party member, what you think he'll do to you? And then he's calling himself running. He wants to run for Attorney General. Would you want someone in office that would, if they do that to their own party, the rest of Michigan can get better watch out? And so what do you think about Dick's decision to step away from DeGrow?
Well, I think that's he's prepared himself for many years to run for governor, and he's keeping his eye on the ball. Granholm, Attorney General Granholm, is I think she is, if you look at her recent